I give a fuck? Why do I give a fuck? Why do I try so hard? Why do I care so much?
Welcome to Why Do I Give a Fuck? A cross-cultural conversation between myself, Diane Tate,
and JoHanna Thompson. In these times of great struggle and possible shift, we ask ourselves,
why do we give a fuck about any of it? How does the lens we see the world through impact what we see?
And what do we do about it?
Welcome to the introductory episode of Why Do I Give a Fuck podcast.
Hey.
Yay! I'm so excited.
Here.
We're here. Yeah. So my name is Diane Tate, and this is my co-host.
Yes,
my co-partner.
Thank you for that. I'm JoHanna. Is my name, JoHanna Thompson, but I like to be just referred to as Jay, which is perfectly fine for me. Yay. So happy to be here, having these conversations.
Yeah, we're excited. We've been cultivating this for a minute now, talking back and forth. So we're excited to be here for our introductory episode. And we were thinking about how we were going to do this conversation because probably most of you listening don't know who we are, and rightly so. We are just regular women who wanted to do.
I'm not regular.
Sorry, you're right. I'll put words.
Not a regular woman.
Not gonna do that. But we thought we would start this conversation by maybe talking about some identifiers that folks may, because we know most of you will be listening to this. You can't see us, and so we wanted to give people just some framework about who we were. So we thought we'd start with some identifiers. So Jay, you want to start on how you come to this space and how you identify?
Yeah, this is a fun question to ask, knowing that people are listening. And I'm just curious as to what is going on in people's minds just from hearing our tone and our vibration of how we're in the introduction. But I am Black identified woman, is what I'd like to say. I am a cisgendered woman. And this is somebody who prescribes to the same gender that I was given at birth, which means I was born as a female. I have a vagina, and that means that I am moving through the world and choosing to conform to that female gender, cisgender. I am an American because I was born in America. I also have always been facing to the motherland, which I attribute to Khan or Africa, as people commonly prescribe to it. But then I also prescribe to the way that there have been so many different bloods that run through my stream from all of my ancestry and history. I speak English. I studied German in high school. That's a whole nother story. Right now, I'm on Duolingo trying to learn Spanish, recognizing that there are more people in the world that speak Spanish than I knew when I was growing up younger. My place of origin, I am a queen from Queens. I was born in New York City, in Queens. And then I was raised in California. So I'm a bi-coastal person. I got a little East Coast on me. I got a lot of West Coast on me. And now I'm in the South, which is a new thing. All of those geographic regions have their different iterations in my life. So let's see. Oh, and my faith base, it's interesting because I was having this conversation with my young person and one of her friends. And my faith base, by definition, would be Christian because I believe that Jesus roamed the earth and was the Son of God. But then I also believe that we're all children of God. And I also prescribe to God. I would not refer to as with the he gender. I would refer to as with the female gender. And also recognizing as humans that we've created what our faith base looks like, because I've gotten to travel the world in a way that I have an expanded understanding of what faith can look like. And the divine lives and breathes and is manifested through all of us. So those are some of the qualifiers that I have, and welcome all of other people's ways that they choose to identify. How about you?
Excellent. How about me? Let's see. So, I am a white identified woman.
All right.
And part of the reason why we'll talk a little bit later about why we wanted to do this podcast, that cross-cultural conversation, as you might see on our description and our website. So let's see. I'm cisgendered, and do identify as such and heterosexual. So just for that framework, I identify as, or I would consider one of my identifiers as a mom. So I have one daughter who is an adult now, and so I've had that experience of being. I used to say I was the president of the Just the One Club because people would ask me if I had kids, and I would say, yes, I have one daughter. And they go, oh, just the one.
It's the
So
one.
that's a whole nother story. I always wanted to say, so what? I don't qualify as a mom because I only have one. But I
I
used to
love
defy
that.
that. Yeah, I used to defy that and say, yeah, I was smart. I stopped at one. So, but language of origin, English speaking. I tried very much to do other languages. I tried French in high school and that didn't work. I tried Spanish in college and that didn't work. So, I have an ear for accents. I can pick up accents really well and tend to pick them up when I'm around people that have strong accents that are different than mine. But in terms of the languages, my brain struggles with that. So
Same.
I applaud you in trying to learn Spanish.
I'm on it. I'm on my streets.
I'm telling you, I just yeah, it's a challenge for me for sure. So place of origin, I was born and raised in the South, in a very small, still segregated town in North Carolina. And I've lived most of my life in the South, except for a short stint in Colorado. I've lived in the South until about 2 years ago. I moved up north, so I now live in the Northeast, and that's a whole nother
Whole different.
conversation.
Yep. A whole different.
That's a whole
We'll
conversation.
get to that.
So I am currently in the North, but I am a Southerner through and through, and as I'm sure you will hear by my accent.
Yes, we can hear it.
Yes, yeah, I'm sure you can. In terms of religion, I was raised in the Christian church and the Episcopalian faith. I now identify as a member of the Baha'i faith, but have come to that just about 6 years ago. And so I've been a person who has always been interested in faith and conversations about faith, but never quite really got,
Yeah.
that whole conversation. And so I've bounced around a bit over the
Hmm.
course of my lifetime and have settled in the Baha'i faith. And there's a lot about it that resonates with me deeply. But there are also things that, I can tend to be a little contrarian when it comes to traditional frameworks of religion. I don't like how some of them are exclusionary and how they say this person or this someone
Yeah.
identifies as this and so therefore they're less than. I really struggle with that in organized religion. So and the Baha'i faith has no shortage of that for me. So I do consider myself to be a spiritual person.
Hmm.
I would also say I identify as a recovering alcoholic. Um,
Okay.
so my spirituality comes in. I've been in recovery almost 30 years. And so
Yeah.
I really came to a relationship with a higher power through recovery. Those of you who are listening who may know about 12-step programs, there is a strong identification with a higher power as it's talked about in recovery circles. Some people call it God, some people call it HP or higher power. And so that's a big piece of my spirituality is coming to my understanding about God through the boundaries of recovery. So,
Yeah. I
um,
mean, that's an interesting thing that you bring up. And I'm interjecting in this moment because I'm thinking about how impactful and necessary spirituality has been in my being brought up, as a Black identified human, right?
mm,
And what that's looked like to like actually always have some type of rooting in some type of faith base. And most of the time, it is, Christian ideology. But that being so necessary because of needing recovery, needing healing from years and years, centuries of trauma. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
interesting that you say that and make that connection. It sparked that thought for me in this moment. Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely a part of who I am and a big part of my journey when it comes to spirituality. I also identify as an artist and an author. Those two things are relatively new because I am in my mid 50s. It's only been in the past, 8 years maybe that piece of myself has gotten unlocked. So it still feels like a coat that I'm trying on that I'm like not sure it fits yet, I'm still, so it feels important to say it and speak it into this space because I'm still trying to claim that part for myself. So that's me in a nutshell.
That's a big shell.
It's a big shell. Yeah. Yeah. It's a big shell for sure.
Shell. Um, yeah, that's fun. It's funny. It's interesting because there were a number of things that you said that I was just like, oh yeah, I guess I identify with those things, but it wasn't the first. It wasn't what I thought to think of and sharing with
Yeah.
and sharing. So it's really good to hear you offering all of those additional pieces of identity to help us know who you are.
Yeah, yeah. So, we talked about when we were talking about doing this introductory episode and helping folks know who we were and what we brought to this conversation. One of the things that you shared, Jay, and brought up was the concept of doing a poem to further describe who we are. So, I would love to hear more from you on that, and maybe we can move into that piece of it because I was really excited about that.
I love doing interactive things, right? Because it just
Yes.
keeps us engaged in a different type of way. And this is a wonderful interactive activity that can be used when people are trying to get to know folks. And I learned this. There's an organization called Mosaic Miami, and we had a convening together. During this convening, we had the opportunity to do some interactive activities, and they had a poem that was inspired by, let me get this person's name because I always like to give uh, credit where credit is due, flowers early while people are still around. I'm hoping this person's still around. I have no idea. But Esther Kamkar's poem. I'm not going to read the poem because I don't have it in front of me, but essentially it begins with the question of just because I am something, whatever the person identifies with, doesn't mean I. And so I'm inviting us to go between ourselves through this conversation with some of the identifiers that we just offered before, so that we could really pull in some of what we experience as the stereotypes that exist out in the world. And this makes sense for us to do this, one, for y'all to get to know us, but also because we just want to name the thing. We want to say the things that are out there because it's important to be able to have these conversations.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
would you
Hence,
like me to start or do you want to
hence the
start?
name. Why do I give a fuck? As our title, right? It's like
Yeah.
we just want to put it out there. So yeah, I thought this was great. I've done a version of this poem or maybe a version of this kind of activity before, but the questions and the precepts were a little different. So I'm really excited to dive into this with you. So do you wanna
Now
give
let's have,
it a go? Give it a start?
I can model. I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
So let's get it. Um, just because I am Black identified doesn't mean that I only listen to hip hop and rap music, eat fried chicken, and love watermelon.
Okay. And we're going back and forth. We want to do this back and
Absolutely. Your
forth.
turn.
Just because thank you for that. Just because
Helpful.
just because I am a white identified woman, doesn't mean I like raisins in my potato salad. uh, it's a Karen thing.
I
Um,
don't know anything about that.
doesn't mean I'm clueless to racism, my own racism. And let's see. It's really interesting to do it where you're trying to like reverse the stereotypes. And, as a white person, I'm not
Hey,
used to like thinking about what
you don't know what your
stereotypes are,
stereotypes
right?
are?
So
Oh,
uh,
they're out there.
they're out there. I know they are. That you could probably name them quicker than I can, which is
Probably.
part of why we're doing this. Yeah,
You
I
could
was going to
almost say
say it's funny. I was going to say doesn't mean I feel like I'm superior to everybody else, but actually, I
there it
struggle.
is.
I will always be working on that. So I can't even say that part.
Oh,
I'm really stumped. Isn't that
that's
funny?
the truth. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, I'm stumped.
This is the point. I'm glad that we're having that.
Yeah,
So yeah, okay. So
yeah.
don't know what that stereotype would look like. So let's move on to gender. Do you want to go first with gender? How about going first with gender?
Yeah, just because I am a cisgendered woman doesn't mean I don't find other women sexually appealing.
Is that it?
Oh,
You can do
um,
three if you want
I
to,
could
but you
do
don't
three.
have to.
Let's see. Just because I'm a cisgendered woman, I can't believe how hard this is for me. I don't want to waste time thinking, so I'm going to pass
Okay,
it to you.
no worries. Just because I'm a cisgendered woman doesn't mean that I'm heterosexual.
Hmm,
Doesn't mean that I always want to dress in dresses and wear lipstick and have makeup
hmm,
on.
mhm.
Um, and doesn't mean that I don't have really masculine um, ways of being that might be off-putting to people. So, yeah,
All the things that you just
there
said.
it is.
Yeah, that last one for
That
sure
part.
for me. I identify with that for sure. Yeah, because I've been told before that I can be much. Um,
Hmm.
and I do lead with my masculine. That is something that I'm very aware of as a survival tool for me.
Absolutely.
So yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's a balance, and until you think of it, you don't really think about it, you know?
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I can move on with ethnicity, so we
Okay.
don't have any dead air. Just because I identify as Jamaican American, doesn't mean that I don't think about all of the other ethnicities that I am made up of. And that's inclusive of, I'm sure there's some white in there somewhere along the lines, but I do know that I have Asian ancestry and indigenous to the US ancestry. Um, I'm told I have Cuban, which living in Miami is surprising and very hard to swallow because, you know,
Hmm.
don't get the don't get the Cuban love.
Sounds like
But I
there's
haven't
a
been to
podcast
Cuba.
there.
Yeah, there's a whole podcast there. Um, and I haven't been to Cuba, so I'm also, going to acknowledge that that is a U.S. type of migrant experience that I'm
Gotcha.
having.
Gotcha.
And doesn't mean that I haven't had some really wonderful experiences and relationships with people with other ethnicities, so all across the world, which
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to always be able to explore.
Yeah. Excellent. I'm not sure. I was trying to think if I even offered ethnicity when I talked about my qualifiers or my identifiers. I don't think I did.
Yeah.
And when we were getting ready to record this, I remember stumbling on what my ethnicity was, and that was a whole other podcast too. Because as a white identified person in the United States, I don't have to know what my ethnicity is. In fact, for any of you that might be listening outside of the U.S., on any kind of forms or any places where you're supposed to identify your ethnicity, um, white will be the main thing that's in the list that you check. But then the other descriptor is either you're non-Hispanic or Hispanic in terms of your, so it's white, but then there's another identifier about whether or not you're Hispanic or non-Hispanic. And so when we were talking about what ethnicity was, I was like,
Eyebrow
how
raised.
do I even know what that is? I know. And I'm like, I'm not even sure I know how to identify myself. But now that we've talked about that, and that's a whole nother podcast about why. I don't have to know what that is. I am in terms of DNA and in terms of my actual ancestral roots. I am Scottish, Irish, and British, so I am as white can be. Um,
Full colonizer,
yeah, full colonizer, full, all of the DNA,
all of them.
all of it. And even, ancestry is I've spent considerable time building my tree, and I just moved to the Northeast and living in Connecticut, and people would say, "Oh, you've never lived up here," but it feels like home to me because I know my colonizer history in terms of taking this state from the Native Americans, and so yeah, it's a full colonizer. And I always knew that was going to be the story. I just didn't know what the actual like percentage and makeup was. And just recently in the past year, my daughter and I traveled to Scotland and England, and it was my first time on those ancestral lands of mine. It meant more to me than I think I knew I was going to. I don't think I knew how it was going to impact me being on those lands and knowing that that's where my DNA comes from, instead of being on this land where I'm
Yeah.
told this is my land, but I know it's not.
That's interesting.
And there was something foundational about being in Scotland and knowing
Mhm.
that my ancestors walked that land and that that's where they were originally from. And even Scotland has a colonizer, has been colonized by Great Britain. And so that land was where my DNA came from. And that really, it meant more to me than I knew it was going to until I was there. So
Interesting.
yeah.
So that's something that's been robbed from you with just being able to check the white box
Yeah.
completely.
And a
Yeah.
lot of, yeah. And I didn't realize, I didn't know it was going to make such an impact. And it was funny because my daughter, my young person, she kept hiding her face and going, "Mom, don't tell people that we're from Scotland because we're not, we're American." And I'm like, "I know
Mm.
we're American. I'm not appropriating anything. Our DNA comes from this land." So it's not,
I claim this.
she was thinking that I was like trying to take on something that wasn't mine to take on. And I'm like, "No, this is actually where we're from," and
Yeah, that's
so
interesting.
she
Oh man,
was,
that's so interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's maybe 2 or 3 podcasts right there. Is yeah,
That you won't claim the thing that is actually yours to claim, but claim all of the other things that are not.
right.
That's a
Yeah.
little strange.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that she was, yeah, I don't know. I think she was reacting from a place of, well, white people are always appropriating other cultures. And so therefore we must be
Yeah.
appropriating this. And I'm like, no, we're actually, this is
This
actually
is the
where our
one. This is
DNA
the
comes
one we
from.
can.
They actually come from, our genes are here, and so we're not
Yeah.
appropriating this. It's okay for me to say, and maybe that's my training on her, in terms of her
Mhm.
awakening to her whiteness and how she can't claim this, that, or the other. And then when it
Mhm.
was time to claim it, she's like, no, we can't do that. So it's interesting, those conversations that we were having. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
So that right, we're going back and forth. So we just did ethnicities.
Yeah.
Pass
All
it back.
right. So you do you feel complete with the ethnicity?
Yeah. Yeah. I probably said way more than I needed to.
Just checking in. It's never too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see, place or let's see. Yeah, just because I am identified as an American, um, as my place of origin doesn't mean that I don't qualify my actual place of origin being the center, what I'm gonna um, describe as the center of the universe. The Africa Khan, I mentioned that earlier. Specifically Egypt. Egypt was a place that was reminiscent of what you communicated when you went to Scotland. I felt really very comfortable and at home in Egypt. Now, I didn't go to the Constantinople area in Egypt that was very heavily colonized. I was down in by the pyramids and then went down into a swan where the folks are less infused with other humans, with other people. And so that felt like, yeah, this is my place. This is where I'm from. All of the things made sense to me when I was there. And so that's where what I would say is my place of origin. And then also just to make the distinction, I am recognizing that I say that I am an American, but I'm also qualifying that I'm a North American, that I'm on, you know, in U.S. territory,
Mhm,
on Turtle Island.
mhm,
And that doesn't discount at all any of the folks that live in South America, going down. If they ascribe as Americans most of the time, I've heard people be more nationalist to their country.
mhm.
And so in that same nationalism, I say I say an American and saying that is qualifying as US, um, but recognizing what that means as far as imperialism and as far as having privilege, to be able to do that as a superpower, living in a territory that's a superpower.
Yeah, I mean, place of origin, I feel like maybe I already spoke to that when it came to ethnicity. I was born and raised in the South. So in the US, in this lifetime, this iteration of myself, my Southern training was well indoctrinated over the course of the years. And I know that we will probably get into other dialogues about what that means. And I do originate, my ancestry originates from Scotland, and Great Britain and some Ireland. So, in terms of former iterations of my ancestors, that's where their place of origin was. Um, and, my Southern upbringing really impacts my whiteness, my awakening to my whiteness, which, full disclosure, only started about 9 years ago, and I am 56. So I spent the majority of my life oblivious to my whiteness in terms of just the impact that it had on others. I'm sure I was aware. Of course, I was aware that I was white, but in terms of my privilege and how deeply that went, and my participation in white supremacy and upholding it, and benefiting from it, I was not had not done that deep dive until fairly recently. So I think that feeds into answering the question about place of origin, in terms of, just because, getting back to our little our exercise, just because I'm from the South doesn't mean I'm uneducated.
All right.
Thinking about the stereotypes of the South doesn't mean I like eating okra, because I do not.
Mhm.
Um,
I do.
can't do the slime. It's a
Cooked a
texture
certain
thing.
way.
It's a
It
texture
has to be
thing.
cooked crispy.
Yeah. Just because I'm from the South doesn't mean, I can say this now, doesn't mean I love being from the South.
Mm. That's very interesting. Because I did hear a little bit of pride when you were saying I'm Southern true and true in our other in our
Mm,
opening
right.
introductory, and I was like, oh, okay, that's some Southern pride that I've never heard. Okay, I hear
Mm.
it. And now you're saying
That's
that
funny that you
you
read
don't
it as
hold that
pride.
as,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So you're not rolling a Confederate flag anywhere.
I
Okay.
am not proud.
Deanna is shaking for those
I am
listening.
not. Yes, for those that are listening, I am shaking my head. No,
No,
I'm
no,
not
no.
proud of it. And
Mhm.
I also know that only just 2 generations ago, my father's grandfather, so my great grandfather, so that's 2 generations, was the Grand Dragon of the North
Okay.
Carolina KKK.
Yeah,
So I am not
not
proud
far
of that.
removed.
And I feel like it's always important to identify that, not because I'm proud of it, but because I feel it's important to claim, like another full disclosure moment. This is my
Hmm.
history. And that's not the
Yeah.
only whacked out Confederate loving ancestor that I have. So no, not proud of it at all.
Wow. Yeah. That's why I don't know on my father's. Oh, actually, I can say, interestingly enough, on my father's side, my father's father in Texas, I am aware of was a passer. So full disclosure on that.
Was a passer.
That
Oh, okay.
was a
Okay. I
passer.
thought I heard pastor at first, and I'm like, why is she going to
No,
such lengths? Okay, passer.
was a
Interesting.
passer.
Okay.
So
Okay.
while you was having Grand Dragon, my folks were trying not to be killed
Yeah,
as pastors,
as
not just
pastors.
as trying
Yeah.
not to be killed. Yeah. Look at that. Okay, well, we
Yeah.
learn things by doing these exercises, which is really exciting and
Yeah.
fun to do for me. How
Yeah.
does it feel for you?
Yeah. I mean, it reaffirms for me why we're doing this, right?
Hmm.
Because even though you and I have known each other, for a couple of years and we've had some really in-depth conversations about different aspects of life and history and just what's happening in the world today, we're always able to uncover something new, and just the difference in our lived experiences and the lived experiences of our ancestors that come forward when we have these dialogues. So I'm just so.
Yeah, it's important to be thinking about the foundational places that we don't typically think of. And to
Mhm,
your point, that
mhm,
really helps us to be present in the way that we are today. I
mhm.
think that is critical to be like, where do all of my foundational thoughts originate from? And
Yeah.
even if you don't access, that great grandfather who was a pastor or anything like that, those things do inform the way
Mhm.
that you've been raised, the way that you contextualize the world, the way that you communicate
Yeah.
with people. And I think that it's really important to be thinking of that, which also brings me to this checkbox that we do in the US to identify who you are,
Mhm.
um, and never having to really think about it as a person from a privileged place where every single time one of those checkboxes come up for me, I have to, I always look for the box that says choose not to identify, first of all, because I'm imagining, I
Yeah.
don't know what the reality of this is, but I'm imagining that that's going to have some type of implications for whatever I'm filling out the form
Mhm.
for. And
Mhm.
so I have to think about, when does it matter to actually like offer this information when somebody visibly can't see me, as opposed to just, oh yeah, I'm just going to check this box because I know it's not going to have any real impact on my life other than giving me more privilege or
Right.
not.
Yeah.
So
And for me, checking the white box it does not carry with it any kind of oh shit moment. I'm going to be,
mhm,
pigeonholed or not be allowed to have access to X, Y, and Z because I checked this box. For me, the internalized moment that I have when I go to check that box is a sense of disgust when I
mhm,
go to check that box. There was a period of time in my life, this was
mhm,
before my awakening, when I was still in that don't we all bleed red bullshit. Where when it came time to check the box and you had the option for other, I would put human. That was my moment
mhm.
of resistance because
Yeah.
I was like,
Why are we doing this?
we're all human. Why are we doing this? And why,
Hmm.
and so that was my very lame moment of resistance in that moment
I
because
did it too.
yeah,
I did
yeah.
it too. So
Well, I did it because I thought we all bled red, and so why are we labeling? And I was in my
mhm,
colorblind phase, and so that's why I was doing it. But so yeah, for me, when I go to check white, I have a moment of God, this fucking I hate being white.
mhm,
I
mhm.
hate whiteness. My daughter asked me,
Yeah, the
she said, "You
whiteness.
hate white people." I said, "No, I don't hate white people. I hate whiteness." Um,
Yes.
and yes, there are white people out there I don't like. I don't like their
Mhm.
whiteness. I don't like how their whiteness manifests in
Shows up.
I try to be good about keeping that distinction in my head because I could just blankly say I hate all white people. And that could be another podcast, but like where do I feel most comfortable? These days I feel more comfortable in non-white spaces than in white spaces.
Mm.
In my
Another podcast. So it's so
another
funny because
podcast.
as we
I
say,
know.
as we keep on saying all of like these little, giving these little
Yeah.
snippets,
These little
here's the point.
whispers.
Here's the
Yeah.
point, y'all. Like, this
Yeah.
is the conversations. We know that these are conversations that we need to be having, one for ourselves,
Right.
right? To just be able to have this moment of reflection and how we're coming to things. But
Yeah.
then also because what an opportunity for people who don't have chances to have these type of conversations with somebody that they always might wanted to have,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to at least hear how it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's dying.
No.
Um, it's a conversation that in moments you will have a feeling of loss of breath is what I want to say, or you'll feel it in your body in some type of way. But it
Right.
doesn't mean that you don't work through it or go past it, and it doesn't
Right.
mean that anyone is like a drowning.
Right.
Your turn.
My turn. Well, the only one left I think that we kind of talked about was, or at least we had on our list, was religion. I know that I
Yeah.
offered some other qualifiers like mom and artist and author. And so I guess I'll go back to the just because. So just because I identify as Baha'i doesn't mean I don't appreciate some of the Christian teachings that I grew up with. Not many, but there probably are some that manifest in my life and how I move through space because that was the training that I got as I was growing up.
Yeah. I could go into my just because with my faith. And I think that I just want to reserve that in this moment for when we have a deeper conversation
Okay.
about it, because there's so many complexities. And then if I was going to be speaking about it just in this introductory moment, I am also thinking about the complexities and the layers and the intersectionality of being a female, being Christian, being Black identified, but then my type of Christianity is not the type of Christianity that everybody would typically ascribe to Christianity. So
Gotcha.
let's leave it at that.
Gotcha.
Let's leave it
Heard.
at
Another podcast.
that. Okay.
Stay tuned,
Parking lot,
folks. We're
parking
gonna
lot.
have
Yes.
lots of another podcast.
And that's what it is. We are having lots of conversations,
Mhm.
which you can look forward to within this podcast. Um, and we're really exploring why it is that we do give. Here it is. Fuck.
Oh, she said it.
Recognizing that every single time that we did come together to have a conversation, that we were honestly able to speak about and reflect on some of these things and share that openly with each other,
Mhm.
which made for some really interesting opportunities that we thought would be really important to share with a more expanded audience than just ourselves. Sometimes you don't just be having conversations with the chorus. But as we're looking at how divisive our country is becoming and really our globe at this point, I think it's important to become more developed in being able to communicate across cultures with each other.
Mhm.
And a part of that is just breaking down the fear of what that would look like and what that experience could feel like that most people are adverse to.
You're willing to have these dialogues with me, and it values both of us, and hopefully it will value others who might listen to how we go through this together and how we navigate that. That's our hope.
A part of the value of it for me is definitely trying to have a better understanding, because I am surrounded by white folks all the time, and this is the work that I do. And it's interesting that you communicate what I heard is as a intentional effort, right? To be thinking about the way that how you show up could impact others. When I heard that and I ascribed intentional to it, I'm thinking, gosh, it's an automatic thing. Yeah, it's not intentional, but it's automatic that I always have to think about these things to make sure that I'm creating safety for myself,
Right.
to be
Yeah.
able to like survive.
And
So
it's new for me.
yeah.
That's where the title of this podcast came into being. When you and I were trying to figure out what we were going to call this, we knew what we wanted to talk about, but we were like, what are we going to call it? And
Mhm.
and I was just listening to free pieces of music on a website one day, just trying to get inspired because we were talking about doing the intro, and I came across this song and just go, why do I give a fuck? And I thought that's it,
Yeah.
because because so much of what we end up talking about are things that people could put their hands up and go, don't activate me. I don't want to, I don't want to know about that. I don't want to know so the question of why do I give a fuck about this?
Yeah,
Why do I give a fuck
yeah.
about that? Maybe I don't give a fuck. And if I don't,
Hmm.
why don't I give a fuck? Why do you give a fuck?
Right.
I don't,
Yeah.
or maybe I give a fuck and you don't. And all of that, my head just went, boom, as soon as I
Yeah,
heard
that
that
was it.
song, because I thought, that's it. That's like the ultimate question that prefaces so much of what we talk about. So that's how we landed.
And I appreciated the punch of it when you played the song. First of all, the song is good. All have heard the song is catchy. And I appreciated the punch of it. And I also appreciated that I was doing this with somebody who is white identified, which allows a certain amount of privilege. I don't think that if I would have chosen it on my own accord, just because of like what the possibilities of the backlash could look like
Yeah.
as a person, but knowing that we're doing this together, it's being able to kind of forge into the unknown
Mhm.
um, with a title that is punchy that makes people curious about what it is that these two women are talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's real. That's absolutely, I mean, we went through lots of different questions around this title.
Absolutely.
Do we bleep it out? Do we bleep out the word? We already, I'm sure you've seen the logo, and so it's a speaking bubble, with the words in it, and we changed two of the letters in the word fuck so that it doesn't read as that word. And so then we talked about, do we bleep it out? Do we bleep it out of the song? Do we bleep it out of saying it out loud? And in the intro, I'm the only one that says it. You don't say it, and all
Oh,
in the different phrasing that we share in the intro and the outro, I'm the one that says it. And we
mhm.
intentionally made that decision,
Yeah,
because it will be received differently coming from my lips than it would be from yours.
absolutely.
And that's real,
That
so
is great.
so yeah, this process alone of deciding we were going to do it, and then trying to figure out what it might look like, and then coming up with the song, coming up with the title, coming up with the logo. All of that process has been just a wealth of conversation and learning about each other, and about just the different ways that our lived experience and our lenses that we see the world through informs how we navigate any of this stuff. And it feels like this is our first official podcast, and so this will be the first time that anyone has been hearing our voices and talking about this. I feel like we've been doing this for years, just in the conversations
Yeah.
we've had. So
Alrighty.
well, I just want to let our listeners know kind of just how this podcast is going to show up in the world. So we are going to be dropping new episodes every couple of weeks, and so roughly twice a month, you'll find a new podcast on all the places that you find your podcast. So hopefully you will come and find us. We do have a website that we've gotten up and running, and the address to that is it's an anagram, right? Is that how is it? Or
Acronym?
acronym? Thank you.
It's an acronym. Yes, it
I always
is.
get that word wrong. An acronym.
Why the gaff? That's the
Yeah,
more comfortable way
YDGAF.
for me to say
Yeah,
it.
so YDIGAF dot
Yeah.
com is our website. And you'll be able to find us on all of the social media platforms, mostly under YDIGAF podcast, on Facebook and Instagram, and TikTok is YDIGAF dot podcast, to find us. So those are the places where you can start to follow us, like us, share us, especially if you have people in your world that you feel would find some value in listening to our dialogues and our conversations. We welcome. It's going to take all of us to get the word out about this new podcast, and we hope you find value in it. So, did I
And
leave?
we'd love to hear from you.
Yes.
Let's see how we activate you with these conversations,
Yeah.
with the responses, because that's always fun as well to deep dive into how
Absolutely.
people are impacted and responding to what they
Yeah.
hear.
Send us a DM, send us you on the website, you can send us an email, and you can let us know, if there's something that you've heard us discuss that really impacts you in any kind of way, helpful or not, we want to hear it, because that's going to inform how we come to this space. And, and if you want to answer the question of why do I give a fuck about whatever it is you've heard us talk about, that's good too. Might give us some ideas. Not that we are
Yeah.
short of topics to talk about.
To have conversations about.
There is no
Yeah.
shortage in that list at all, but we want this to be as interactive as it can be. If you're in a space in your life where you don't feel like you know how to have these conversations, but you want to hear somebody model that, let us know what you want to hear about, and we'll bring it to the table and talk about it, because that's why we're doing this. So
Thank you. We'll see you next time.
Why do I give a fuck?
Thanks for joining us. Until next time, as you move throughout your day, continue to ask yourself,
Why do I give a fuck?
Why Do I Give a Fuck is produced in collaboration with JoHanna and Diane. Music by Norwegian musician Water. See you next time.